Every year it's the same old story. You pour your heart and soul into your garden, and then they arrive. Tiny, relentless, and incredibly hungry. Aphids, moths, and fungi that cover your leaves and fruit in ugly spots. Sound familiar? Well, what if I told you there is one single most important treatment that can handle this for the entire 2026 season? Today, we're diving into the dormant spray method, the ultimate armor for your trees. This isn't just a tip. It's the strategy that separates a healthy, thriving orchard from a sickly one. Stick with us and you'll learn how to wipe out 90% of your future problems in one single stroke. So, why do this now, while the trees are still sleeping and spring is just barely in the air? It's simple. The pests and diseases are sleeping too. They are overwintering right there on your trees, hiding in the cracks of the bark, under the bud scales, and in those mummified fruits you forgot to pick last fall. Right now, they're vulnerable. Treating your trees while they're bare isn't just a precaution. It's a preemptive strike that destroys the enemy in their own den before they have a chance to wake up and multiply. This is the most effective, and more importantly, the safest, window to use powerful concentrated formulas. These are the same treatments that would scorch fresh green leaves, so we can't use them later. This is our one and only shot to deliver a total, decisive blow to everything trying to ruin your harvest. The first and most important question is, when exactly does this golden window occur? You shouldn't go by the calendar, but by the weather and the condition of your trees. The ideal moment is when the average daily temperature stays consistently above 5 degrees Celsius, yet the buds haven't started to grow. They must be completely dormant and tightly closed, what we call the sleeping bud stage. Why is this timing so critical? If you wait too long and the buds begin to swell or reach the green cone stage, the concentrated solution used for dormant spraying can damage or even burn the tender new leaves and future blossoms. However, if you rush and spray while it's still near freezing, the treatment's effectiveness drops significantly and all your hard work will go to waste. So, keep a close eye on the forecast and inspect your trees every day. Sometimes, a difference of just a few days can determine the fate of your entire harvest. When it comes to gardening, timing isn't just a suggestion, it's everything. Before we dive into the recipes for these potent mixtures, let's talk about the most important thing, your safety. We'll be working with some pretty aggressive chemicals, and believe me, safety protocols aren't just for show. You absolutely need the right protective gear. First, a respirator, not a simple surgical mask, but a proper respirator with filters that will actually protect your lungs from toxic fumes. Second, safety goggles. They should fit snugly against your face to keep accidental splashes out of your eyes. Third, rubber or nitrile gloves. Your skin can absorb these chemicals, which leads to serious irritation. And fourth, make sure your skin is completely covered. Wear long sleeves pants and a hat. Ideally, use a full protective suit. Don't take these rules lightly. Your health is far more important than any harvest. Always spray in calm, windless weather, ideally early in the morning or late in the evening. And make sure there are no children or pets anywhere nearby. This isn't just advice, it's your responsibility. Picture yourself preparing for a major battle. You wouldn't charge across a field cluttered with debris, would you? Your garden is no different. Before you even reach for the sprayer, you need to clear the battlefield. It's time for a deep clean. First, if you didn't do it last fall, rake up every single dead leaf. They are prime winter housing for fungal spores and dormant pests. Next, inspect every tree. See those shriveled, dried up fruit still hanging on the branches. Those are mummies. They are a breeding ground for fruit rot and fungal infections. Pull them off and burn them immediately. Whatever you do, never put them in your compost pile. Step 3 is sanitary pruning. Cut away any dead, diseased or broken limbs, as well as any branches growing toward the centre of the tree. Be sure to seal those cuts with pruning sealer to protect the wood. Finally, don't forget the trunks. For older trees, use a wire brush to gently scrape off any loose, peeling bark. That's exactly where mites and scale insects love to hide. Once this prep work is done, your garden is primed, protected, and ready for the final offensive. Let's kick things off with a true classic, the heavy artillery of any gardener's toolkit. We're talking, of course, about copper sulfate. If you've ever used a garden sprayer, you've probably seen this bright blue crystalline powder. Why is it so popular? It's simple. Copper is a powerhouse fungicide. Whether it's apple scab, fruit rot, or leaf spot, these diseases don't stand a chance. An early spring treatment with a concentrated solution literally burns away the spores that spent the winter hiding in the cracks of the bark. Think of it as deep cleaning a hospital ward before a new patient arrives. But there is a flip side. First, copper sulfate isn't a miracle cure for everything. It's almost useless against pests like aphids or caterpillars. They won't even notice it. Second, copper tends to build up in the soil, and in high concentrations, it becomes toxic to the plants themselves. That's why you need to use it wisely and strictly follow the instructions. For a thorough dormant spray on bare trees, the standard is a 1% solution. That's 100 grams of powder mixed into 10 litres of water. Mixing a powder with water sounds simple enough, right? But there are a few tricks to getting it right, and skipping them could ruin your hard work. Here's the golden rule. Never use metal containers, especially galvanized steel or aluminum. Copper reacts chemically with these metals, which destroys the solution's fungicidal properties. Stick to glass, plastic, or enamelware instead. Rule number 2. Start by dissolving the powder in a small amount of hot water, about 1 or 2 litres. Copper sulfate crystals are slow to dissolve, and the heat really speeds things up. Stir it well until every last crystal is gone. You'll end up with a concentrated vibrant blue mother solution. Once that's ready, top it off with cold water until you reach the full 10 litres. One final tip. Always strain the finished mixture through a few layers of cheesecloth or an old nylon stocking before pouring it into your sprayer. This simple step keeps any tiny, undissolved particles from clogging your nozzle. Meet another veteran of the gardening world, ferrous sulfate, commonly known as iron sulfate. At first glance, it looks a lot like its copper-based cousin, though its colour is a pale greenish blue rather than deep blue. Many beginners assume the two are interchangeable, but that's a major mistake. Ferrous sulfate is a completely different tool with its own unique set of properties. As a fungicide, it isn't nearly as powerful as copper. While it can handle some minor issues, it's usually not strong enough to take on heavy hitters like apple scab or fruit rot. However, it does have 2 unique advantages. First, it is incredibly effective at clearing moss and lichen off tree trunks. Once treated, they turn black and can be easily brushed away. Second, it isn't just a fungicide. It's also a direct source of iron for your plants. Using it is a great way to prevent chlorosis, that frustrating condition where leaves turn yellow due to an iron deficiency. This makes it a favourite for reviving old neglected trees that have become overgrown with lichen. For a heavy-duty cleanup, you'll want a concentrated solution, roughly 300 to 500 grams per 10 litres of water. Just keep in mind that when it comes to fighting serious fungal infections, iron is no substitute for copper-based treatments. Let's settle the debate once and for all. When should you use copper sulfate versus iron sulfate? Think of it like a sniper rifle versus a shotgun. Both are powerful tools, but they serve completely different purposes. Copper sulfate is your sniper. It's designed for precision strikes against fungal diseases like scab, brown rot, and leaf spot. If your apples were covered in black spots last year, or your cherry tree started withering right on the branch, copper is your go-to. It delivers a targeted, heavy-duty hit to the pathogens causing those specific problems. Iron sulfate, on the other hand, is your shotgun. It's built for broad-spectrum cleanup. Its main job is general sanitation, clearing away moss and lichen, disinfecting the bark, and giving the tree a much-needed iron boost. It's the perfect choice for older orchards that haven't seen much care in a while. Let's clear up a major myth. These two are not interchangeable, and you should never mix them together. If you're fighting a disease outbreak, use copper. If you're cleaning up the overall health of the tree, use iron. If you're dealing with a neglected garden, the ultimate strategy is a two-step process. First, treat the trees with iron sulfate. Then, wait a week or two, making sure it's still before the buds begin to open, and follow up with copper. That way, you've covered all your bases and given your garden the best possible start. Now, let's move on to the true queen of spring treatments, a remedy that has been guarding gardens around the world for over a century. I'm talking about Bordeaux mixture. So what exactly is it? Essentially, it's copper sulfate with one crucial addition: lime. Why the lime? It neutralizes the acidity of the copper, making it far less harsh and much safer for your plants. But more importantly, it creates a thin, adhesive film on the branches that doesn't easily wash away in the rain. While standard copper sulfate works in the moment, Bordeaux mixture provides long-term protection. It essentially seals the tree, creating a protective barrier that fungal spores just can't penetrate. This gives it both fungicidal and bactericidal properties, meaning it tackles bacterial infections as well. For that classic early spring blue spraying, a 3% solution is the gold standard. It's the most powerful and effective option, but keep in mind, it should only be applied while the buds are still dormant. Making Bordeaux mixture is more than just mixing two ingredients. It's a true art, almost like alchemy, where the sequence of steps is everything. One wrong move, and instead of an effective fungicide, you'll end up with a useless, clumpy mess. To prepare 10 litres of a 3% solution, you'll need two non-metallic containers. In the first, dissolve 300 grams of copper sulfate in a small amount of hot water, then bring the total volume up to 5 litres. In the second container, slake 300 to 400 grams of quicklime, or dilute some pre-made lime milk. It's better to have a bit of extra lime to ensure an alkaline reaction. Bring this volume to 5 litres as well. Now for the most critical part, pour the copper sulfate solution into the lime milk in a thin, steady stream, stirring constantly. Whatever you do, don't do it the other way around. If you pour the lime into the copper sulfate, the mixture will curdle. A perfectly prepared Bordeaux mixture should have a vibrant sky blue colour and a smooth, uniform consistency. Before you use it, there's one final test. Dip a clean iron nail into the liquid. If the nail stays clean and doesn't develop a reddish copper coating, your solution is ready to go. You've probably heard experienced gardeners talk about blue spraying, but what does it actually mean? It's an intensive, dormant season treatment using a 3% Bordeaux mixture. It's called blue because once it dries, a properly prepared solution leaves a distinct bluish tint on the branches and trunks. This residue is your main indicator of a job well done. If your trees look as though they're covered in a fine blue frost, you've done everything right. You've created a protective shield that will guard your orchard against infections for weeks. That blue hue proves you haven't missed a single twig. The entire surface is now protected. Blue spraying is a fundamental skill every gardener should master. It's a rite of passage, a bridge between winter and spring that builds the foundation for your garden's health for the entire season. If you skip it, you'll likely spend the rest of the summer chasing disease outbreaks. Why spend all year putting out fires when you can prevent them with one powerful, preemptive strike? What if I told you there's a single treatment that can tackle 3 jobs at once? It might sound too good to be true, but it's a total game changer for your garden. I'm talking about urea, also known as carbamide. You probably know it as a common nitrogen fertilizer, but the real secret lies in the concentration. While we usually use a weak solution for feeding plants, for an eradication spray, we need a heavy hitter dose. By mixing 500 to 700 grams of urea into 10 litres of water, you create a powerful multi-purpose tool. First, this high concentration is lethal to overwintering pests, like aphids, mites, and scale insects. It effectively burns through their protective shells. Second, it's a potent fungicide, rivaling copper-based products when it comes to fighting scab and other fungal diseases. And third, it provides your trees with their first essential nitrogen boost. As the nitrogen is absorbed through the bark, it gives your garden a massive head start for spring growth. It's a triple win. You're treating, protecting, and feeding your trees all at once. That's exactly why urea remains one of the most popular choices for the very first spray of the season. Using high concentration urea is a powerful tool, but like any potent method, it requires careful handling. The biggest danger is burning the buds. If you apply a 7% urea solution, once the buds have started to swell, or worse, begun to open, you will cause a severe chemical burn, and you can say goodbye to the harvest on those branches. Because of this, the rule is even stricter than with Bordeaux mixture. You must only treat trees that are still fully dormant. There is another interesting effect to keep in mind. Concentrated urea can delay the tree's bud break by 1 to 2 weeks. This can be a real benefit if your area is prone to late spring frosts, as it helps protect the blossoms from a sudden freeze. On the other hand, if the spring is early and warm, such a delay might be unwanted. That's why the decision to use urea should depend on your local climate and the long-term weather forecast. It's a tool for the strategic gardener, the one who truly understands the science behind their work. Beyond traditional chemical treatments, there are more modern ways to protect your garden. One of the most effective approaches involves using mineral oil-based sprays, with the most popular being Preparation 30+. So, how does it work? Its mechanism is completely different from traditional copper sulfate or urea treatments. It doesn't poison or burn the plants. Instead, it works by suffocation. When sprayed, it forms a microscopic oil film over the branches that cuts off the oxygen supply. Overwintering pests, including aphid eggs, scale insects and mites, simply cannot breathe and perish under this layer. Since this is a physical rather than a chemical method of control, it is both highly efficient and environmentally friendly. The oil emulsion doesn't accumulate in the soil and breaks down rapidly. It's a perfect alternative for anyone looking to minimize the use of harsh chemicals in their garden. These treatments are particularly effective against San Jose scale and various mites, which can be notoriously difficult to manage with other methods. It's a smart, modern solution for keeping your garden healthy and protected. While oil emulsions are highly effective, they do come with certain drawbacks you should keep in mind. First of all, they're primarily designed to target overwintering pests and mites. When it comes to fungal spores, their effectiveness is extremely low. This means if your main issue is something like apple scab, a product like Preparation 30+ won't be enough on its own. You'll either need to tank mix it with a fungicide or use it only if disease isn't a concern. Second, timing is everything. You can only apply these treatments when temperatures are consistently above freezing, at least 4 degrees Celsius, otherwise the protective film won't set properly. Third, a word of caution. Never use these oils on conifers. The oil clogs the tiny pores or stomata on the needles, which can cause them to turn yellow and drop off. And, as with any garden chemical, getting the concentration right is critical. If the solution is too thick, it can actually block the pores in the bark and harm the tree itself. Ultimately, this isn't a magic bullet for every garden woe. It's a specialized tool for a specific set of problems. Many gardeners wonder if they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. For example, is it possible to mix urea and copper sulfate in a single tank to tackle pests and diseases while giving your trees a nutrient boost at the same time? In the gardening world, these are called tank mixers. Technically, it can be done, and the resulting mixture will indeed have both insecticidal and fungicidal properties. However, there's a significant risk involved. Chemical reactions between the components can be unpredictable. The mixture might settle into a sediment that clogs your sprayer, or even worse, it could become toxic to your trees. If you decide to experiment, always start by mixing a small amount in a jar first to see if any flakes or sediment form. The golden rule for tank mixes is this: Dissolve each product separately in a small amount of water before adding them to a tank that's already 3/4 full. But for those just starting out, my advice is to play it safe. It's better to perform 2 separate treatments a few days apart, starting with the urea, followed by a Bordeaux mixture. It's a much more reliable and ultimately safer way to keep your garden healthy. Even the best prepared solution is useless without the right tool to apply it. I'm talking, of course, about the sprayer. The options today are endless, ranging from small handheld units to large 20-litre backpack models. If you're managing a mature garden, a backpack sprayer is a must. They generally come in 2 types, manual pump and battery-powered. Manual sprayers are more budget-friendly, but they require constant physical effort. You'll be pumping with one hand while trying to aim the wand with the other. It's exhausting, especially in a large garden. Battery-powered sprayers are a total game-changer. You just flip a switch and the motor maintains a perfect constant pressure automatically. This lets you focus entirely on the quality of your work rather than fighting with the pump lever. Yes, they're more expensive, but believe me, the time and energy you save make them worth every penny. When choosing a model, pay close attention to the wand. Ideally, you want a telescopic wand so you can reach the very tops of your trees without ever needing a ladder. Alright, the solution is mixed, the sprayer is filled, and your protective gear is on. Now let's talk about how to get the job done right. The golden rule here is total coverage. You need to coat every single inch of the tree. There shouldn't be a single dry spot left when you're finished. Start at the very top of the canopy and gradually work your way down. Be thorough with every main branch, spraying from the trunk all the way to the tips. Pay extra attention to branch crotches and any cracks in the bark. That's exactly where overwintering pests love to hide. The tree should be completely drenched, practically dripping with the solution. A mature tree might take 10 litres or more to cover properly, so don't hold back. Any missed spot is a potential breeding ground where pests or diseases can regain a foothold and spread through your entire garden. Once the canopy is done, make sure to spray the trunk and the soil around the base of the tree. This ensures you catch anything wintering in the top layer of the ground. It's a slow, meticulous process, but it is absolutely vital for a healthy harvest. Even with the best intentions, gardeners often make common mistakes that can ruin all their hard work. The first big mistake is poor timing. As we've mentioned, spraying once the buds have already started swelling is a recipe for disaster. Mistake number 2 is spraying right before it rains. If it rains within 4 to 6 hours of treatment, the product will simply wash away, making your efforts completely pointless. Always check the forecast first. The third mistake is getting the concentration wrong. Eyeballing it is the worst thing you can do. A solution that's too weak won't be effective, while one that's too strong will actually damage your trees. Use measuring cups and scales to be precise. Mistake number 4 is being too stingy with the spray. Trying to cover 10 trees with only 5 litres of mixture is just wishful thinking. You're going through the motions, but you won't get any real results. And finally, the most common mistake of all, ignoring safety. Working without a respirator and goggles is a direct path to health problems. Keep these 5 don'ts in mind, and your garden will thank you. But what about those young saplings you planted last fall or this spring? Do they really need the same heavy-duty treatment as the old giants? Gardeners are actually a bit split on this. On one hand, a new sapling from a nursery usually doesn't have a backlog of pests or diseases. Its bark is smooth, with no cracks or crevices for bugs to hide in. That's why some people feel you can skip the heavy artillery during the first year. On the other hand, prevention is never a bad idea. Pests can crawl over from neighbouring yards and diseases can easily drift in on the wind. The best compromise is to use the same products, but at a lower concentration. For instance, instead of a 3% Bordeaux mixture, go with 1%. This provides plenty of protection while minimising the chemical stress on a young developing plant. It's the perfect balance. You're protecting the sapling without overdoing it. Don't overlook these newcomers. The care you provide in these first few years sets the foundation for the tree's entire life. So, you've completed the main eradication treatment. Great job! But does this mean you can just sit back and wait for the harvest? Definitely not. This was only the first round in the battle for your garden. The most important one, sure, but only the beginning. What's next? We're looking ahead to the next critical phase, the green cone stage. This is the moment when the buds burst open and the tips of the young leaves first appear. During this window, pests that survived the initial treatment, like weevils and blossom beetles, start waking up and coming out of hiding. It's also the exact time when wind-borne fungal spores can infect those vulnerable new leaves. That's why the green cone treatment is the next essential step in your garden's protection plan. However, for this stage, we'll be using entirely different products at much lower concentrations to ensure we don't damage the tender new growth. We'll cover all the details on that in our next video. For now, your garden is well protected and you've given it a fantastic head start for the 2026 season. Let's wrap things up. Early spring dormant spraying isn't just another chore. It's the very foundation of your garden's health for the entire year. By timing it right, mixing your solution correctly, and giving every tree a thorough soak, you're knocking out up to 90% of overwintering pests and diseases. You aren't just putting out a fire, you're preventing one from ever starting. Success comes down to 3 pillars: the right timing, the right product, and total coverage. Use copper sulfate or Bordeaux mixture to keep diseases at bay. Reach for ferrous sulfate if you have weakened trees or issues with moss and lichen. And for a versatile 3-in-1 solution, urea is your best bet. The choice is yours, but the most important thing is not to miss this narrow but vital window of opportunity. Thanks for watching until the end. I hope you found this helpful. What's your go-to early spring treatment? Share your proven recipes and secrets in the comments below. Let's build the ultimate knowledge base for gardeners everywhere. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next tips for a record-breaking harvest. See you in the garden.